Good morning. As most of you have seen, there's a lot going around about this new Avery's Law. I've been watching it on all of my dog trainers' posts, all of my shelter friends. We've posted it, and there's always been laws about dogs. A lot of regular dog owners, they don't know these things. People in my business, that's part of our job, is to know these things. So, this can seem really, really scary, and it's definitely a change for sure. And I'm just seeing a lot of misconceptions and kind of like not associated with what's going on. So I just wanted to speak on it. I have to tell you, of course, I'm not a lawyer, as you know, and I'm not a judge. And all of these situations that you could encounter will have to go with lawyers and judges. So, that's going to, decide how the outcome comes. I'm trying to pick my words carefully here, right? So this is in no way if that this is what will happen. I'm just going to go over some of the points specifically from the law. Then I'm going to talk about some of the things that I've seen that people are assuming or thinking or saying to kind of myth bust those things. And then I'm going to talk about some ways that you can protect yourself and your dog from this law. And again, not a lawyer, not a judge. All of this has to go through them, and every situation. Guys, no. My neighbors are doing construction. They've been quiet all morning. Hey, no. Go lay down. Nova, we're done. It's a door. Be done. John, don't listen. All right, hopefully they don't do that again. So, again, not a lawyer. Oh, okay. John, enough. Nova, please. I've sat here for half an hour and they haven't had anything to say, prepping all of this, and now here they are. So I apologize. Go lay down. It's fine. I may have to put them in the other room. All right. So the first thing I want to say is there are 3 legal definitions: nuisance dog, dangerous dog, and vicious dog. And by the way, those are not new titles. They've always been around. That's 3 levels, and every one of them, I'm not going to read you every detail to this because it would take too long, and nobody wants to hear it, but I will post in the comments after I get done the link to the actual law with all the technical stuff, and you can read it. And then, if you got questions, you can reach out to people who are legally allowed to give you those suggestions. So there's 3 levels: nuisance dog, dangerous dog, vicious dog, and they are all said they have committed one of the following acts without provocation. Without provocation. That means they were not provoked. Okay? That means your dog just ran and did these things. Okay? Unprovoked. So keep that in mind. Unprovoked. Very important. All right. There are 2 definitions of injuries, and I am going to read those verbatim. Injuries is any physical harm, but does not include physical harm resulting from a situation where the dog behaves in a playful, non-aggressive, or age-appropriate manner. Okay? Age-appropriate manner. Playful, non-aggressive. Okay? Those don't count. So don't freak. Serious injuries. A serious injury is physical harm that carries a substantial risk of death, involves a permanent incapacity, whether partial or total, or a temporary substantial incapacity, involves a permanent disfigurement or a temporary serious disfigurement, or involves acute pain of a duration that results in substantial suffering, or any degree of prolonged or intractable pain, but does not include physical harm resulting from a situation where the dog behaves in a playful, non-aggressive, or age-appropriate manner. That's written, that's exactly the words. All right, now we're going to read what they put down as provocation. Okay? This is provocation. So the dog was not teased, tormented, or abused by a person. The dog was not coming to the aid or defense of a person who was not engaged in an illegal or criminal activity and who was not using the dog as a means of carrying out such activity. And the dog was not attacked by another dog or livestock. So this is, if your dog was not doing it for these reasons, then that's, provocation, okay? So, it does not include those things. All right. Where did it go? I had a page. Ugh, too many pages. Okay. What has always been possible, even if the dog had not yet been designated or had prior history, even before this law, criminal prosecution was possible. Escalating criminal charges once a dog is designated was always possible. Dog seizure, always possible. Euthanasia, always possible. That's always been there. What has changed is that it's increased penalties for dog bites, dangerous and vicious dogs. So there's a strict liability criminal offenses, higher escalation of criminal charges once dog is designated, and that's towards the owner. Euthanasia mandatory for the vicious dogs, which by the way is the highest level that your dog can be designated. And if a dog without provocation kills or seriously injures a person and that injury results in a substantial risk of death, permanent incapacity, serious permanent disfigurement, or acute pain of a duration that results in substantial suffering, a court must order the dog to be humanely destroyed. I think if y'all understood what that meant, you probably would be okay with this, right? I mean, we're talking about mauling. That's what we're talking about, right? If a dog is deemed vicious because it has killed someone, or they might die from the injuries, or they are incapacitated forever because of it, it's a pretty serious attack. That's not, the quick snip on the hand here. All right. So there's another thing, what that means for shelters. And I guess I didn't do a good job of keeping my paperwork in order. Vicious, dangerous, nuisance. Okay. I really wanted to read the part about the shelters, because obviously that's our biggest thing. Oh, here it is. All right. Shelters harboring dogs only get limited protections from criminal liability if the animal shelter did not have knowledge and could not have reasonably ascertained that the dog was a dangerous or vicious dog. So we're not exempt from this law. And honestly, all that does is reiterate exactly what we've been about for years since I took over, is that we're not adopting out dogs that are dangerous, who try to bite people. Because, first of all, who wants that? Who's adopting that dog? And second of all, it's dangerous, right? It's not just dangerous to the people handling the dog in my shelter or dangerous to the people adopting. It's also dangerous to shelters everywhere, because if somebody adopts a dog from the shelter and it's a horrible experience. They get hurt, somebody gets mauled, their animal dies. Do you think they're going to want a chance on another shelter dog? Not likely. And that's the problem. It'll be all the shelters dogs get hurt by this. So, the law has its good points. I understand it's scary. But owning dogs has always been risky. There's always been a chance of being sued if your dog does something. There's always been a chance of criminal liability if your dog does something dangerous. If your dog is aggressive, there's always been that risk. All right, so some of the stuff that I've seen on the comments and on the various places is, one of them was, well, you just go get your dog tested as a canine good citizen and it'll protect you and your dog will be safe. No, actually it doesn't. Your dog can have a canine good citizenship certificate, but if they still go out and viciously attack someone unprovoked, it doesn't mean anything. That certificate is a test in time. So maybe at the time of the test, at the age frame and the experiences that your dog had at that point, your dog was fine. But what happens, like I know John Boy took that test a year ago. Okay, so after a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 6 years, after that test was taken, what if your dog is different? Your dog has changed as they've aged. Your dog has had experiences that have changed them. Your life has changed that's caused changes in your dog. Just because you got a certificate from 4 years ago that said your dog was fine and did well in public in that instance doesn't mean your dog won't ever bite anyone ever. It's also a controlled test. You're not in the middle of a dog park. You're not in the middle of a festival, right? When you take this test. So, not a guaranteed protection. It is not a bill that is aimed at pit bulls. That's another thing I've seen. Oh, this is all about pit bulls. It's not. Nowhere in any of it, when you read it, does it say the word pit bull. Nowhere. The girl who the law is named after and where this got started, Nova, leave it alone, was attacked by a pit bull pit mix, but nowhere in the bill or the law does it say pit bull. It is aimed at every dog, all dogs. So little Fluffy to big dogs, it's still a possibility that you will face this. It is not an excuse to euthanize more dogs. If the dog is dangerous and vicious and trying to maul and attack people, I'm sorry, that should be a euthanasia anyways. Nobody should be trying to adopt out more dogs that have those behaviors. They should not be doing that because it's dangerous. It is not an excuse to euthanize more dogs. Dog pounds, the open intake shelters don't need an excuse. They literally, if they have to euthanize for space, they can. I don't know if it went off. I don't have any idea. It's not aimed at large dogs, but let's face it, who are you more likely to be seriously injured or killed? Well, I don't know how to fix my sound. And I don't know if anybody else is watching that can tell me if they can hear. It won't show me. Oh, let me see. Shush. Okay. Okay. Well, anyways, Rita Wilson, I can't get to the point any faster because there's a lot to this law. So if you don't want to watch, feel free to turn it off. But there is a lot to it, and to shorten it and say 5 words and call that an explanation, it's not fair because it's not a good explanation. So feel free to jump off anytime. All right. So it is not aimed at large dogs, but let's face it. Are you more likely to be mauled or seriously incapacitated by a 10-pound dog or by an 80-pound dog? That's the simple facts of the size of the animal. I've got a 2.5-pound dog who everybody thinks is adorable, but let me tell you, she's a holy terror. She doesn't bite people, but she straight is not nice to other dogs. But is she going to kill a 40-pound dog or an 80-pound dog? No. And anybody who asks me about her, I'll say, if she was a big dog, this would be a different story. And I probably wouldn't have kept her because she has the ability as a big dog to do more damage than a small dog ever could. She's 2.5 pounds. This is not a nice dog. She has resource guarding issues. She goes after my dogs. She doesn't like dogs. She is not nice, but she's not likely to kill anybody. So unfortunately, it does end up affecting the big dogs because of their size, because of their viciousness, of their ability to do that. Small dogs can be quite vicious. I've been bitten by more small dogs than anybody. But again, a 10-pound Chihuahua versus a 100-pound Mastiff, I'm sorry, I'm probably going to walk away from the 10-pound Chihuahua. So unfortunately, it does affect big dogs. Defense of themselves, the dog defending themselves, the dog defending other people, there's always been a question about that. There has always been the chance that you could get into trouble if somebody breaks into your house and your dog bites them. It's always been there. And again, most average people don't know these things, but when you work in the business that I do, you learn these things. You hear about them, you deal with them, you take classes because you're trying to be protecting the community. So, let's talk about what you can do to protect your dog and yourself. And again, this is just what I'm telling you from my years and from what I understand about the law. Here's the biggest one. Keep your dog at home. If your dog is not running down the street, bothering people, they're not coming after you. If your dog's at home and they're not chasing people down the road or going off property to be aggressive, guess what? Your dog and you going to be a lot safer. You know, yesterday I had some lady who wanted to surrender dogs, perfectly nice dogs, but they just won't stay in her yard. So do something to keep them in your yard. Put up a fence, put them on a tie out, walk them on a leash. Don't just surrender them. Do something. You can do it. Now you have to be aware that yes, there are plenty of dogs out there who are escape artists. That's your job as their owner to figure out how to keep them in. Your job. No one else's, your job. Keep your dog under your control. So when you have people over at your house, if your dog's not good with people coming in the house, put your dog away. Put them in another room. Shut a door. Put them in a cage. Shut the door. Do what you have to do to keep the people who visit you safe from your dog who doesn't want to be around them. If your dog is not good at meeting people, then, and you want to get better, work with a professional who can help you with that and make sure it's nice and controlled so that your dog doesn't have the opportunity to hurt anyone. Anybody who works with a trainer who's working on a behavior, the first thing they're going to tell you is you've got to manage the behavior to stop allowing it to happen before and work on getting them not to do it. You can't let them do it and then pull them back after, okay? Keep your dog under your control. If you go out in public, keep them under your control. 6-foot leash does not mean they have to be at the 6-foot end of it. Control is next to you. Control is at your side. Control is close to you, not on a 20-foot leash where they can roam around and do whatever. If your dog has issues, don't do it. But if your dog doesn't have issues, understand every dog, no matter how nice, has the ability to bite because they have sharp teeth. And that is what they do in defense of themselves when they are spooked, whether it's legit or not. Okay? That's what your dog does. So there's always a possibility of your dog biting. Anyone who says my dog will never bite doesn't understand dogs. Period. Off-leash control, and I say that like this, doesn't control your dog's impulses. They're not machines. I have pretty good off-leash control of John Boy, like voice control. He does a good job. I cannot predict or control his impulses, though. So, if one day he gets it in his head that he's going to leave my side and not listen to me, there is nothing I can do if there is no leash attached. Nothing. He has his own thoughts, his own feelings, his own impulses, and he can, and at some point might, sorry, phone call. I'll go outside in a park with a dog on a leash, and the dog, someone else has voice control, but yet their dog is clear in my space and they're 50 feet away. That's not voice control. Okay, and again, not machines. They're living, breathing, thinking, feeling animals with impulses that can go off at any point. Your leash is not enough. Again, 6 foot, don't let them have the end of the 6-foot leash when you're around people, other animals. Don't give them a 20-foot leash when you're around animals and other people. Flexi leads, hate those things. I've always hated those things because too many people allow their dogs to go to the end of it and you have no control on a flexi lead. Because if the dog is pulling, the only thing you can do with a flexi lead is push that button to lock it. You cannot suck that back in and pull your dog in. So you have to lock it, pull, and by the way, you see how far my arm goes? 2 feet? If that's not enough to remove the situation because your dog's at the end of a 10-foot, 12-foot, 16-foot flexi lead, you have no control because your dog has 15 feet left to right, left to right. That's not control. When you are on a flexi lead and you're looking this way and your dog's over here, you're not controlling your dog. You need to pay attention. I really hate those things. Walking a dog who can drag you because you cannot physically hold on to them, not control of the dog. So you need to go through leash training, have the right tools to keep your dog in control, build up your muscles, whatever that is. But when you're walking a dog that if they see something, they can drag you to it, and they're going to, you don't have control of that dog. That's not a dog that you should be out in the middle of public with because now you can't control what that dog is going to do. If your dog has behavioral issues, get behavioral help for your dog. Definitely provide more management. Management is those things that we do to make sure that our dogs can't escape, that our dogs are on a leash, that we are training them to listen, that we are working on their bad behaviors, that their insecurities, their anxiety, their aggressive stuff. If your dog's a door dasher, you have a fence on the other side of that door so they can't go any farther than your fence line. Or you have a fence inside, you put up a gate of some sort inside that they have to, that's a second barrier so you can walk out the door without them escaping past you. That's management. You need to provide more training, structure, socialization, and enrichment for your dog. We have taken animals, moved them into our house, expected them to be okay with doing nothing, no work, no nothing, and expect that their behavior will be fine, that they just want to lay around and do nothing. Especially in your working breeds, that is a disaster waiting to happen. I personally am a workaholic. If I had to sit and do nothing, I would lose my mind. And that's what our dogs do. And when we do that, when we take them in and we do those things, and we take all their stuff away from them, we have to be the ones that then provide for them. So, socialization. You might be like, well, why would I want to take my dog out in public if socializing him could get me in trouble? Because socializing doesn't mean that they have to be up against, they don't have to be right up in someone's face. They don't have to be right next to a dog. They don't have to be meeting people. That is not all that socialization is. Being able to take your dog out, if you're going to take them out, and have them see people and not throw a fit, see dogs, not throw a fit, see cats and keep themselves under control. Things like that, that's socialization. When I take my dogs out to work on their socialization, I'm not in the middle of everybody. I start out way on the outside skirts of everybody. And we see how they behave. Let them get a feel for it. Most of the time when I'm out, my dog doesn't meet people. My dogs don't meet other dogs because I don't know what's going on that side. I don't know how that person's going to handle their dog. I don't know how their dog is feeling. I don't know their dog's history. That you can still socialize your dog without being in people's personal space. Enrichment, that's a word that not everybody might understand. Basically, providing things to help your dog feel more having fun, useful, providing the things that they are missing. So chewing is a big one. Searching, if your dog is like a retriever and they like to go, they're meant to go retrieve things, playing ball with them, but structuring it, not just randomly throwing and throwing, add in your training with it. Some dogs like to de-stuff things because they're doing their ritual of killing something. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't let them do that. It's something that they do. Like my little tiny dog would de-stuff lots of mice and everything, like stuffed ones. But we had a real mouse come in our house and she was like, I don't know what to do with that. So don't get me on that. There are so many training options for these things. It is become very popular in the world of training on, giving them things to do, trying to provide for their needs without allowing them to roam the countryside, without allowing them to, actually hunt and kill things, and without them being hunting dogs. There's so much out there that you can do, and a lot of it does not require you to buy special equipment, stuff you can do at home. There's a lot of do-it-yourself kind of things. Know the breed that you're getting. Now, when you're getting a mutt, good luck, because mutts don't have any rhyme or reason to what they do. Just because you get a poodle mix doesn't mean it's going to act like a standard poodle or a miniature poodle or a toy poodle. It's a mix, and it is his own breed now. But know the breed you're getting. Know what kind of things the breed you're getting, if you're getting a purebred especially, would do in their natural setting, what they're like, things like that. I have a Mastiff. Mastiffs are natural territorial guardians of their property. It's a natural behavior. That means I have to modify what my Mastiff can do. I can't leave her free roaming on the property because if somebody walks onto it, she's going to say, it's mine, get off. And that's a risk for us and a risk for her, even though she's just doing her thing. So we have to be out there with her. We have to watch her. When someone pulls into the driveway, we have to make sure that we either have a hold of her or we have moved her to a place where she cannot bother them. We get packages delivered. We cannot leave her loose out on the backyard if we know she's not going to let the mailman on. That's just what we have to do. That is management. That is knowing our dog and knowing our breed. So what does that mean for us at the shelter specifically? Well, we've had a policy for years now that we don't take aggressive animals. We don't adopt out aggressive animals. We don't adopt out dogs who are aggressive towards people, kids, or, no, dogs. No. John, shh. We don't adopt them out. We haven't for years, and we're not going to. So this doesn't change anything, okay? We're not taking aggressive dogs because we can't do anything with them. We can't adopt them out. And we are not in the habit of taking dogs in knowing that we're just going to turn around and go euthanize them. That's not what we do. It does mean more questions when you try to surrender a dog. It does mean we're going to ask you more questions, and it doesn't matter the size of the dog, I'm going to ask you anyways. That is for us keeping our butts covered. We are going to have more paperwork for owner surrenders to sign, because we're going to have you sign multiple times that you are attesting that the questions you have answered are truthful. So if you're telling us that your dog has never bit anybody, that your dog is not dangerous, that your dog is not aggressive in any of these ways, that you are telling us the truth, so that if it turns out you're lying, we have recourse to be like, hey, you knew that your dog bit your neighbor and you didn't tell us. It means that we're going to check with the dog warden before taking your dog and see if you've ever been designated. Whether you've been designated as a nuisance, a dangerous, or a vicious dog. We're going to look into that now. We are going to take copies of your driver's license at surrender to have a way for you to be tracked if we need to get a hold of you for something that happens that you swore didn't happen. And that includes the people who randomly do try to give us a stray. We don't often take strays, but once in a while we will. And we will be taking the same precautions. And we will be asking you, in the time that you've had this dog, did it attempt to bite you? Did it bite you? Did it go after your dog? Did it go after your child? Have you seen it have any of these aggressive behaviors? I don't care if you had it for 5 minutes or you've had it for 5 days. I'm going to ask you those questions. We will possibly have changes to our volunteer program, our foster program, our group event program, and our outings, because the shelter is not protected from these kind of situations. So, and we want to make sure that anybody who is fostering or volunteering for us is aware of the stuff that comes with this. And we just want to make everybody safe and covered as best as possible. We have never wanted anyone to get hurt. And we don't ever want that, regardless of what law does or does not take effect. In case you're curious, this law does take effect on March 20th, so a week from this Friday. So if if you have a dog who tends to not stay home, you have a dog who has some behavioral issues, now is the time to start securing how you're going to keep that dog in so that you are protected and your dog is protected. There is one thing, I just caught it on the corner of my eye. It's talking about fencing. Having a fence up is great. Having a fence up that the dog could still bite someone through it might be something you want to consider. Privacy fence might be your better option. Also keeping up on your fence maintenance, making sure, that they haven't chewed a hole or dug a hole or broken pieces of fencing. They kind of don't count if it's not keeping the dog in. So I am not a lawyer, as I said, and each situation is going to have to go to court, and you're going to have to prove things, and people are going to have to prove things. But it all comes down to, if your dogs are under your control and they're on your property and they're not hurting anyone, then you'll never have to deal with this law, regardless of the size of your dog, regardless of whether they've gotten a canine good citizenship, any of those things. Okay, so hope that helps clarify it. I kind of feel like it probably will bring up some more questions, but I hope it cleared up some of the questions. And it's just really hard for me when I see people like, oh, it's all about pit bulls. Nowhere is it about pit bulls. And, you know, getting these coverall situations, thinking that they know what they're talking about, and they're wrong. You know, getting your CGC, which is a canine good citizenship, it's great. Nothing wrong with it. You know, the training that it provides is great. But you have to remember that every dog that still has a mouthful of teeth can bite someone and hurt them, regardless of size. And that, yes, in this case, size does matter, sadly. So, anyways, hope that helps. And I will work on finding the exact, like, legal wording and put it in the comments so that you can read that specifically or go to the link to read it specifically.